My toxic ex made a point of befriending every guy I dated and warning them about me, until I started seeing his cocaine dealer instead. You know, there are moments in life that just gut you. Moments so profoundly unfair, so deeply violating, that they leave you gasping for air, wondering if you'll ever truly feel safe again. For me, that moment wasn't a single event, but a slow, insidious poisoning of my entire existence by a man I once loved, a man who became my living nightmare and nearly cost me everything, until, in the most twisted turn imaginable, his own dark obsession delivered him right into the hands of justice. Let me start by saying, my ex Tyler wasn't always this monster. When we first met 5 years ago, he was charm personified. I mean, truly captivating. The kind of guy who'd show up at your door with your favorite coffee on a random Tuesday, just because he remembered you mentioned it once. We dated for 2 years, and that first year, it felt like a fairy tale. But then, the cracks appeared, and what started as affection morphed into something suffocating. I won't bore you with the drawn-out agony of our breakup, but let's just say Tyler had a control problem. He needed to know my every move, my every thought. When I finally found the strength to end it, he didn't take it well. Not at all. That was 3 years ago. 3 whole years, and you'd think a person would move on, right? Get a life, find someone new. But not Tyler. Tyler made it his personal mission to systematically demolish every shred of happiness I tried to build after him. At first, I didn't even realize what he was doing. I just thought I had the worst luck with guys. There was Marcus, a sweet graphic designer I met while working part-time. We dated for 2 months, and it was genuinely good. Then, suddenly, he got weird. Distant. He started asking these strange, loaded questions, like if I'd ever cheated, if I had anger issues. I was baffled because none of it was true. I've never cheated on anyone in my life, and, honestly, I avoid conflict like the plague. When Marcus eventually broke up with me, he was vague, mumbled something about incompatibility, and said he'd learned some things that concerned him. I was heartbroken, but I just chalked it up to bad chemistry. Then it happened again. With Daniel, a teacher I met through friends. He was funny, brilliant, loved hiking, all things I adored. 3 months in, and again, the shift. The strange questions, the growing distance. This time, when Daniel broke up with me, I demanded an explanation. That's when he finally told me. I ran into your ex, he said. Tyler. He reached out on social media. Told me some things about you I can't ignore. My blood ran cold. What things? Daniel looked incredibly uncomfortable. He said you were emotionally unstable. That you'd threatened to hurt yourself when he tried to break up with you. That you stalked him for months. Destroyed his property. I couldn't breathe. None of that was true, not a single, solitary word. That's not true. I cried. He's lying. But I saw it in Daniel's eyes, the doubt, the uncertainty. And that was enough to shatter whatever we had. That was the moment it clicked. Tyler wasn't just my unlucky ex, he was a predator. He was actively, maliciously, poisoning every well I tried to drink from. I called him, my voice shaking with rage, and told him I knew what he was doing. And you know what he did? He laughed. Actually laughed. I'm just looking out for them, he said, like he was doing a public service. Making sure they know what they're getting into. It's not my fault if the truth scares them away. I screamed at him, told him to stay out of my life, threatened a restraining order. But he hadn't broken any laws. He was just reaching out, being friendly, warning them about his crazy ex-girlfriend. And it kept working. After Daniel, there was Jason. Tyler got to him. Then Chris, then Ryan. Every single guy I tried to date, Tyler would sniff them out on social media within weeks. A friend request here, a casual message there, and eventually, he'd weave his web, always with that chilling veneer of concern. I started to give up. What was the point? Tyler had made it his life's mission to sabotage me, and he was disturbingly good at it. My friends tried to encourage me, told me to keep dating, that eventually I'd find someone who wouldn't believe his lies. But after the 5th guy, I was utterly exhausted, heartbroken, and deeply humiliated. So I stopped. For almost a year, I just stopped trying. I poured myself into work, found a job at a marketing firm after graduating. I hung out with my friends, went to yoga, adopted a fluffy cat named Pepper. I convinced myself I was happy being single. Then I met Ethan. It was at a concert. My friend Amber had dragged me out, insisted I come see her favorite band. I wasn't even planning on talking to anyone. But during the opening act, this guy with tattoos covering both arms and multiple piercings offered to buy me a drink. Ethan was completely not my type. He had this intense energy that was intimidating at first, but when he smiled, his whole face changed. Bright green eyes, a laugh that made you want to laugh, too. We talked all night. Ended up at a diner at 2 in the morning, eating pancakes and talking about everything under the sun. He worked in entertainment logistics, which I later learned was a fancy way of saying he threw huge parties and organized big events, knew everyone in the city's nightlife scene. We exchanged numbers, and he texted me the next day. A date, then another, then another. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt happy, truly excited about someone. Ethan was unpredictable in the best way. Showing up at my apartment at midnight to convince me to drive to the beach, sending me flowers for no reason. He made me feel alive again. I didn't tell him about Tyler right away. I was terrified, worried that even mentioning my psycho ex would somehow jinx things. But about a month in, I knew I had to. Tyler always found out, and I didn't want Ethan to be blindsided. So, one night at his apartment, over dinner, I told him everything. About Tyler, about the past 2 years, about how he'd sabotaged every relationship. Ethan listened quietly, his expression unreadable. I braced myself for the inevitable freak-out, for him to decide I wasn't worth the drama. Instead, he laughed. Not meanly, but in this amazed, disbelieving way. That's insane, he said. Your ex is actually insane. I know, I said. And he's probably going to try to contact you eventually. I just wanted you to know ahead of time so you don't believe whatever he says. Ethan reached across the table, took my hand. Madison, I don't care what some random guy says about you. I like you a lot, and if this Tyler dude tries to come at me with some nonsense, I'll just ignore him. A massive wave of relief washed over me. Maybe Ethan would be different. I should have known it wouldn't be that simple. About 2 weeks later, Ethan texted me, casual as could be, "Hey, weird question, but do you know a Tyler Bennett?" My heart plummeted. "He found you," I texted back. "Yeah," Ethan replied. He sent me a friend request on Instagram. Started messaging me. Seems like a real piece of work. I called him immediately. "What did he say?" I demanded. "The usual stuff, I guess," Ethan said, his voice calm. "That you're his ex. That he's concerned about me. That you have some issues I should know about." And I told him to back off. I told him I didn't want to hear it and to leave me alone. Did he stop? Not exactly, Ethan admitted. He sent a few more messages, but I blocked him. I felt a strange mix of relief and anxiety. Tyler had never been blocked before. The other guys had listened, let him plant seeds of doubt. But Ethan had shut him down immediately. "Thank you," I said, my voice thick. "For believing me." "Of course," Ethan replied. "This guy sounds like a stalker. You should probably look into getting a restraining order or something." I told him I'd thought about it, but Tyler was careful. He never threatened anyone directly. He just reached out to people in my life. Creepy, but not technically illegal. For a few weeks, things were fine. We kept dating. I started to relax, actually believe that maybe, just maybe, Tyler had finally given up. Then one night, at my apartment, after I'd made dinner, Ethan said, "We need to talk." My stomach dropped to my feet. "Did Tyler contact you again?" I asked, dread forming a knot in my chest. "No," he said, looking uncomfortable. "It's not about Tyler." "Well, not directly." "What is it?" Ethan took a deep breath. "There's something I need to tell you about what I do for work." I frowned. "You plan parties?" "Yeah, but that's not all of it." He ran a hand through his hair. "The events I throw, the parties, they're not exactly legal. I mean, the venues are legal, but what happens at them isn't always above board." I stared at him. "What does that mean?" "It means ideal," he said quietly. "Not at the parties, but that's how I know most of my clients. I supply people with party supplies." It took me a second to understand. When I did, it felt like a punch to the gut. "You're a dealer," I whispered. "Like, substances?" "Yeah." I had never dated anyone who did anything like that. I barely even drank. The hardest thing I'd ever tried was an edible at Amber's birthday that made me paranoid and sleepy. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked. "Because I like you," Ethan said. "And I don't want there to be secrets between us. I know it's not ideal, but it's how I make money. I'm good at it, and it pays really well. But I understand if this is a deal breaker for you." I should have ended it right there. I know that. It was the smart thing to do. But I didn't. Maybe I was tired of Tyler winning, tired of letting him control my life. Or maybe I had just started to truly, deeply care about Ethan, and I didn't want to lose him over something that felt abstract, distant from my everyday reality. "I need some time to think about this," I told him. He left, and I spent hours staring at my ceiling, my mind a chaotic mess. The next day, I talked to Amber. "Are you serious right now, Madison?" she practically yelled. "You cannot date someone who deals. That's insane." "I know," I said, "but he's been so good to me, and he was honest." "He didn't have to tell me." "He told you because he had to," Amber retorted. "Because eventually, you would have found out. This isn't some romantic honesty thing, this is him covering his butt." She was probably right, but I didn't want her to be. What if I just see where it goes? I asked. It's not like he's dangerous. He's just a businessman with an unconventional business. Amber looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Listen to yourself. You're making excuses for someone who could get arrested at any moment. Who could get you arrested just for being around him? That part hadn't really occurred to me. But then I thought about Tyler, about how he'd spent years making sure I couldn't be happy. About how Ethan was the first person who'd stood up to him, who'd chosen me over Tyler's venomous lies. I'm going to keep seeing him, I said. Amber sighed. Okay, but don't say I didn't warn you. I kept dating Ethan, and honestly, for a while, everything was great. Better than great. He was sweet, attentive, and never made me feel like his work was more important than me. We fell into a comfortable rhythm. I tried not to think too hard about what he did, about the people he sold to, about the risks. Then, about 3 months into our relationship, something truly bizarre happened. I was at Ethan's apartment, waiting for him to get home from a meeting. I was on his couch, scrolling through my phone, when I heard a knock at the door. Figured it was a delivery or one of his friends, so I opened it. Tyler was standing there. I froze. Utterly, completely froze. Madison, he said, looking genuinely shocked to see me. What are you doing here? What are you doing here? I shot back, my voice barely a whisper. I'm here to see Ethan, he said. My brain short-circuited. How do you know Ethan? Tyler's expression shifted. Confusion gave way to dawning comprehension. Then, that smug, infuriating smile he used to charm me and now made my skin crawl. Oh, he said. Oh, this is perfect. What are you talking about? And then he dropped the bomb that felt like a meteor hitting my chest. Ethan is my dealer, Tyler said, his voice dripping with amusement. Has been for about a year. I had no idea he was dating you. This is hilarious. I felt sick. Physically, nauseatingly sick. Before I could even form a response, Ethan appeared in the hallway behind Tyler, carrying a takeout bag from our favorite Thai place. His face went instantly pale when he saw us both. What's going on? Ethan asked, his eyes darting between us. You're Tyler's dealer, I said, my voice strangled, barely audible. Ethan looked between us again. You two know each other? She's my ex, Tyler chimed in cheerfully. The one I told you about. Small world, huh? Ethan's expression hardened. You need to leave, man. I'm here to pick up, Tyler protested. We had an appointment. I don't care. Leave. Tyler held up his hands, that smug grin still plastered on his face. Whoa, okay. Didn't mean to cause drama. But hey, Madison, good luck with this one. Seems like you really upgraded from me. The sarcasm in his voice was thick, almost palpable. He was loving this. Loving that he'd once again inserted himself into my life, into my happiness. Ethan stepped forward, menacingly. Leave now, or I'm calling someone who will make you leave. Tyler finally backed away, still smiling that infuriating smile, and disappeared down the hall. When the door closed, I turned to Ethan, my body shaking. Tyler is your client. Ethan corrected, his voice tight. I'm done with him. For how long? I asked. How long have you been selling to him? About a year, maybe a little more. Ethan set the food down on the counter. I didn't know who he was, Madison. I had no idea he was your ex until just now. Did you tell him about me? I pressed. When you first started dating me, did you mention it? No, Ethan said firmly. I don't talk to my clients about my personal life. That's rule number 1. I believed him, but it didn't make the situation any less awful. Tyler now knew I was dating Ethan. And worse, Ethan had been selling to Tyler for over a year. The same Tyler who'd systematically been ruining my life. I sat down on the couch, my hands trembling uncontrollably. I need you to cut him off completely, I said. No more selling to him. No more contact. Already done, Ethan said. I meant what I said. I'm done with him. He's not going to let this go, I whispered. You don't know him like I do. He's going to use this. He's going to find some way to make this worse. Ethan sat beside me. Let him try. I'm not scared of some entitled jerk who can't let go of his ex. But I was scared. Because I knew Tyler and I knew he was already plotting something. I was right to be scared. Over the next few weeks, Tyler started calling me, texting me, showing up at places he knew I'd be. My favorite coffee shop, the yoga studio, the grocery store near my apartment. He wasn't threatening, that was the thing. He'd just smile and wave, make small talk, ask how I was doing, how Ethan was doing. It was pure psychological warfare. I told Ethan about it, and he offered to handle it, but I knew that would only make things worse. Tyler wanted a reaction, wanted drama. He wanted to get under my skin. So I tried to ignore it, tried to go about my life like Tyler wasn't a shadow lurking just out of sight. Then Tyler escalated. He started posting on social media about me. Not directly, but in this infuriatingly obvious, passive-aggressive way. Posts about toxic people, about exes who refuse to take accountability, about how some people never change. My friends noticed, started asking me about it. I had to explain the whole humiliating situation over and over again. But the worst part came when Tyler started messaging Ethan's friends, his business associates, people in his network. He told them Ethan was dating his ex, that I was bad news, that I had a history of causing problems, that Ethan should be careful. It was exactly what he'd done to all my previous boyfriends, but now he was doing it to Ethan's entire social circle. Ethan started losing clients. People who'd worked with him for years suddenly stopped calling, stopped placing orders. He didn't tell me at first, but I could tell something was profoundly wrong. He was stressed, distracted, worried about money. When I finally got it out of him, I was devastated. "This is my fault," I said, my voice thick with unshed tears. "Tyler is doing this because of me." "It's not your fault," Ethan insisted. "It's his fault. He's the one choosing to be a psycho." But I felt responsible. Tyler was destroying Ethan's livelihood because Ethan had refused to listen to his lies about me. I decided I needed to confront Tyler again. Face to face. I called him and asked to meet. He sounded surprised, but agreed immediately. We met at a neutral location, a park near downtown. Tyler showed up looking smug, like he'd already won. "What do you want, Madison?" he asked, a sneer barely hidden beneath his casual tone. "I want you to stop," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Stop contacting Ethan's friends. Stop posting about me. Stop showing up everywhere I go. Just leave me alone." "I'm not doing anything wrong," Tyler said, feigning innocence. "I'm just exercising my free speech. I'm allowed to post what I want on my own social media. I'm allowed to talk to my friends." "Ethan's friends aren't your friends," I countered, my anger rising. "You're deliberately sabotaging his business." Tyler shrugged. "Not my problem if people don't want to work with someone who has bad judgment. Why are you doing this?" I pleaded. "It's been 3 years, Tyler. 3 years. Why can't you just move on?" For the first time, Tyler's expression shifted. Something darker, colder, flickered across his face. "Because you embarrassed me," he spat. "When you left me, you made me look like a fool. Like I wasn't good enough. Everyone knew you dumped me. Everyone knew I couldn't keep you happy. So this is about your ego?" I asked, incredulous. "This is about respect," Tyler hissed. "You don't get to just walk away from me and move on like I didn't matter. Like those 2 years meant nothing." "They did matter," I said, sadness creeping into my voice. "But they're over. You need to accept that." Tyler laughed. That cold, humorless laugh that made my stomach clench. "I'll accept it when you understand what it feels like to lose something you care about, over and over again. The way you made me feel." That's when I realized. Tyler wasn't just obsessed with me. He was genuinely unwell. He'd constructed this elaborate narrative in his head where I was the villain, and he was the righteous victim, and nothing I said would ever change that. I left the park feeling utterly hopeless. Tyler wasn't going to stop, and as long as I was with Ethan, he was going to keep systematically destroying Ethan's life. That night, my voice heavy with defeat, I told Ethan we should break up. "No," he said immediately. "Ethan, he's ruining your business. You're losing money because of me." "I don't care about the money," Ethan insisted, pulling me close. "You should care. This is your livelihood." "I'll figure it out," he said, his arms tightening around me. "I'm not letting him win. I'm not letting him drive you away." I started crying, hot, desperate tears. "I'm so tired," I choked out. "I'm so tired of Tyler controlling everything. Of him always being there, always watching, always waiting to destroy anything good in my life." Ethan held me tighter. "Then we need to find a way to stop him," he said, his voice low and determined. "For good." "How?" I asked, despair in every syllable. "I've tried everything. Confronting him, ignoring him, threatening legal action. Nothing works." Ethan was quiet for a long, heavy moment. Then he said, "What if we give him what he wants?" I pulled back to look at him, confused. "What?" "What if we let him think he's won?" Ethan explained. "Let him think he's successfully driven us apart. Then he'll back off. And once he's backed off, we can figure out our next move." I didn't love the idea of pretending to break up, but I was out of options. "You really think that would work?" "I think it's worth a try," Ethan said. So that's what we did. We staged a breakup, made it public on social media. I even told Amber, swearing her to absolute secrecy about the fact that it wasn't real. Tyler bought it immediately. He reached out to me a few days later, all fake sympathy and concern. "Hey, I heard about you and Ethan. I'm sorry things didn't work out." I wanted to throw my phone across the room, but I played along. "Yeah," I texted back, "it just wasn't meant to be. Well, if you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here, Tyler replied. The audacity. The sheer, unadulterated audacity. But I stayed calm. Thanks, Tyler. For a few weeks, Tyler seemed satisfied. He stopped posting about me, stopped showing up at random places. Ethan's business started to recover as word spread that we'd broken up. Ethan and I kept seeing each other in secret. It was actually kind of exciting at first, this forbidden romance sneaking around. But it also sucked not being able to be public about our relationship, to truly live our lives together. Then something completely unexpected happened. Ethan came to my apartment one night, looking utterly shaken. What's wrong? I asked, my heart instantly leaping to my throat. Tyler contacted me, he said. My blood ran cold. What? Why? He wants to buy again. Said he heard we broke up and figured there was no conflict of interest anymore. I felt sick again. You're not going to sell to him, are you? No, Ethan said, shaking his head. But that's not the thing that's bothering me. What is it? Ethan sat down heavily. When he reached out, he was different. More aggressive. He said something weird. He said he was glad we broke up because now he could finally tell me the truth about you. The truth? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Yeah. He said he'd been holding back before because he didn't want to seem like he was just trying to sabotage the relationship. But now that we were done, he wanted to help me by telling me what you're really like. What did he say? Ethan looked at me, his eyes full of a strange mix of pity and horror. He said you're dangerous. That when you were together, you manipulated him, controlled him, that you threatened him when he tried to leave. He said you made his life miserable and that he's only been trying to protect people from you. Tears pricked my eyes. None of that is true. I know, Ethan said. But Madison, he believes it. He truly, genuinely believes his own lies. And that, he added, his voice grim, makes him way more dangerous than I thought. We sat in silence for a long moment, the air thick with unspoken dread. There's more, Ethan continued. He told me he has proof. That he's been documenting everything you've done for years. He said if I ever wanted to see it, he'd show me. Proof of what? I hadn't done anything. I know, Ethan said, as if reading my mind. But he's clearly built some kind of case against you in his mind, and I think we need to find out what it is. That's when Ethan suggested something incredibly risky, something that made my stomach churn with fear. I'm going to tell him I want to see the proof, Ethan said. I'll tell him I'm interested, that I'm starting to have doubts about you. That maybe we got back together briefly, and I need to know the truth. No. I cried immediately. That's too dangerous. What if he figures out we're still together? He won't, Ethan promised. I'll be careful. But we need to know what we're dealing with. If he has some kind of documentation, some kind of fake evidence, we need to see it so we can figure out how to fight back. I didn't like it, not one bit, but Ethan was right. We desperately needed to know what Tyler had. So, Ethan reached out to Tyler, spun the story about reconsidering things with me, about needing to see this proof Tyler kept talking about. Tyler jumped at the opportunity, setting up a meeting at his apartment for the following week. Ethan went to that meeting alone. I waited at my apartment, a coiled spring of anxiety and terror, until he got back. When Ethan finally walked through my door, his face was pale, his eyes wide and disturbed. What happened? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Ethan sat down heavily on my couch. Madison, he began, his voice hoarse, he's completely delusional. What do you mean? He has this entire room, like a whole room dedicated to you. Photos of you. Screenshots of your social media posts from the past 3 years. Lists of places you go regularly, receipts from places you've shopped. My breath caught in my throat. My blood ran cold. He's been following you. Documenting your life. He has a room? I whispered, my voice trembling. Yeah, and he has this binder. This huge binder full of evidence about how terrible you are. Except none of it is evidence of anything. It's just random stuff. A photo of you looking upset in a coffee shop with a caption about how you're clearly unstable. A screenshot of a text message where you told him you needed space, which he claims is proof you were threatening him. It's all twisted. All taken completely out of context. Oh my God, I choked out, a wave of nausea washing over me. He walked me through the whole thing, Ethan continued, his eyes haunted. Explained his case against you. How you've been stalking him for years. How you've been trying to ruin his life. Madison, he has it completely backwards. Everything he's accusing you of is what he's been doing to you. I couldn't speak, couldn't process the full horror of what Ethan was telling me. We need to go to the authorities, Ethan said, his voice firm. This isn't just obsession anymore. This is stalking. This is harassment. He has an entire room dedicated to tracking your life. Did you take pictures? I asked, a sliver of hope piercing through the terror. Yeah, Ethan said. I pretended to use the bathroom and snapped photos of everything I could. The room, the binder, all of it. He showed me his phone. The photos made me want to throw up. Tyler's apartment wall was covered with pictures of me. Some I'd posted online, some I hadn't, some that looked like they'd been taken from a distance, without my knowledge. We went to the authorities the very next day. Filed a report, showed them the photos, explained the entire sordid situation. The officer who took our statement looked grim. "This is definitely concerning," she said. "We're going to look into it." But I wasn't hopeful. Tyler was clever. He'd been careful not to break any laws, or at least not any that could easily be prosecuted. Days passed. Then a week. I didn't hear anything from the authorities. Didn't hear anything from Tyler either, which was almost more unsettling. Then, 2 weeks after Ethan's terrifying visit to Tyler's apartment, I got a call from an unknown number. It was a detective. She wanted to meet with me about Tyler. I practically flew to the station. Detective Rodriguez, a no-nonsense woman with kind eyes, sat me down in an interview room. "Miss Reynolds," she said, "we've been investigating Tyler Bennett following your report. And we've uncovered some concerning things." "Like what?" I asked, my heart hammering in my chest. "Mr. Bennett has been under investigation for something unrelated to you. We can't share all the details, but your report helped us connect some dots. We've been building a case against him for harassment and stalking, not just of you, but of several other individuals." My eyes widened in shock and a strange kind of relief. "Other people?" "Yes. You're not his only target. There are at least 3 other women who filed reports about similar behavior. Ex-girlfriends who he's been systematically harassing for years." A wave of horror washed over me, immediately followed by an overwhelming sense of validation. Horror that other women had gone through what I'd endured. Relief that I wasn't alone, that I wasn't crazy. "What happens now?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "We're obtaining a warrant to search his apartment," Detective Rodriguez explained. "Given what you and Mr. Sullivan provided, along with the other evidence we've gathered, we have enough for an arrest warrant as well." I couldn't believe it. After 3 long years of Tyler getting away with absolutely everything, the authorities were finally taking action. "There's one more thing," Detective Rodriguez said, her expression serious. "We need you to be careful. When Mr. Bennett finds out about the investigation, he may escalate. We're going to move quickly, but until he's in custody, you should take precautions." She gave me safety guidelines: stay in public places, let friends know where I was, consider staying with someone. I went straight to Ethan's apartment and told him everything. "Finally," Ethan said, pulling me into a fierce hug. "Finally, someone's holding him accountable." That night, I felt like I could breathe for the first time in years. Like maybe, just maybe, this nightmare was actually ending. The next morning, Detective Rodriguez called me again. "We've arrested Tyler Bennett," she said. "He's in custody." I started crying. I couldn't help it. 3 years of fear, of anxiety, of manipulation, and it was finally over. "What did you find?" I asked, sniffling. "In his apartment?" "A lot," Detective Rodriguez confirmed. "Enough to charge him with multiple counts of stalking and harassment. The room you described was even worse than your photos showed. He had tracking software on his computer. He'd been monitoring your location, your social media, everything. He'd been doing the same to the other victims." "How is that even possible?" I asked, bewildered. "I never gave him access to any of my accounts." "He's good with technology," she said. "We're still figuring out exactly how he did it, but he found ways to access information he shouldn't have had." Over the next few weeks, the case against Tyler built. The other women came forward. Their stories were eerily similar to mine. Tyler had dated them, broken up badly, then spent years systematically sabotaging their lives. One woman, Jessica, had actually lost a job because Tyler had contacted her employer with false accusations. Another woman, Natalie, had moved to a different state to get away from him, but he'd found her there, too. We all gave statements. We all provided evidence. Tyler's lawyer tried to paint him as a concerned ex-boyfriend who'd been falsely accused. But the evidence was overwhelming. The room, the tracking software, the documented harassment of multiple women over several years. The trial took months. I had to testify, had to sit in a courtroom and recount everything Tyler had put me through. It was one of the hardest things I'd ever done. But when the jury came back with a guilty verdict, it was worth it. Tyler was sentenced to 3 years in prison for stalking and harassment. He was also ordered to stay away from all of his victims permanently. No contact, no social media, nothing. When the judge read the sentence, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Free. I was finally, truly free. Ethan and I went public with our relationship after the trial. It felt amazing to not have to hide anymore, to be able to post photos together, to go places without looking over my shoulder every 5 minutes. My life started to feel normal again. I got a promotion at work. Ethan's business recovered, and then some. We moved in together after about a year. But the best part, perhaps, was the relationships I built with the other women Tyler had tormented. Jessica, Natalie, and a woman named Melissa. We formed this unexpected support group. We'd meet for coffee sometimes, talk about our experiences, help each other heal. It's been 2 years since Tyler's sentencing. He's still in prison. He'll be out in about a year, but by then, I'll be long gone from the city. Ethan got an opportunity to expand his legitimate business, the party planning part, to another state. We're moving next month. I'm not running away this time. I'm moving forward. Starting fresh somewhere new. Somewhere Tyler has never been. Somewhere I can just be Madison, not Tyler's victim. Looking back, I sometimes can't believe how close I came to letting Tyler destroy my life completely. How close I came to giving up on relationships altogether, to just letting that darkness consume me. If I hadn't met Ethan that night at the concert, I don't know where I'd be. Still alone, probably still scared, still letting Tyler's shadow hang over everything I did. But I did meet Ethan, and Ethan refused to let Tyler win. He stood up to him in a way no one else had. He believed me when others had doubted. The irony isn't lost on me that the person who finally helped me break free from Tyler was Tyler's own dealer. That Tyler's own actions, his desperate need to control and manipulate, ultimately led him to introduce me to the one person who would help bring him down. Amber calls it poetic justice. I call it lucky. Either way, I'm profoundly grateful. Sometimes people ask me if I'm afraid of what will happen when Tyler gets out of prison. If I worry he'll come after me again. Honestly, a little. There's always that flicker of fear in the back of my mind. But I'm not the same person I was 3 years ago. I'm not alone anymore. I have Ethan. I have friends who know the truth. I have a support system. And more importantly, Tyler's on record now. If he tries anything at all, he'll go straight back to prison. The authorities are watching him. His probation officer will be watching him. Everyone will be watching him. He doesn't have power over me anymore. Last week, I got a message from Natalie. She's engaged now. Getting married next spring. She invited all of us, the women from Tyler's past, to her wedding. I want you all there, she wrote. Because you're the only ones who truly understand what it took for me to get here, to be happy, to trust someone enough to marry them. I'm going to that wedding. We all are. And I'm going to dance and celebrate and not think about Tyler for a single second. Because he's taken enough of my time, enough of my energy, enough of my life. I'm done giving him anything. And you know what the absolute best part is? A few months ago, I ran into Marcus, my second boyfriend after Tyler, the one who broke up with me because of Tyler's lies. We got coffee, caught up. I told him what had happened, about the trial, about everything. He apologized, truly. Said he wished he'd listened to me back then, that he'd believed Tyler's lies when he should have trusted his gut about me. For what it's worth, Marcus said, I knew pretty quickly after we broke up that I'd made a mistake, that Tyler was full of it. It was nice to hear, validating. Nice to know that I wasn't crazy, that the guys Tyler had gotten to had eventually seen through him. But I'm with Ethan now, and I wouldn't change that for anything in the world. Sometimes I think about what my life would look like if Tyler hadn't been caught. If I'd just given up on dating entirely, if I'd let him win. It's a dark thought, one I try not to dwell on. But then I look at where I am now. At the apartment I share with Ethan. At the life we're building. And I know I finally won.